Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Retention Chronicles. I'm psyched for today's episode. A little bit of background on Paige. She just popped up on my LinkedIn algorithm, and I honestly DM'd her and was like, hey, do you want to come on this show I have? And she said yes. So I love that as just giving a little bit of context as to who you are. I can't wait to get to know you better on this episode and have you share more about your brand on this podcast. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Paige, and thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Mariah. I always love when people message me on LinkedIn because it means we're creating impact and we can kind of help build each other up, which I'm always for. And so I was just telling Mariah before the show, I am on a podcast about twice a week. So my voice is a little lost today as well, just a little FYI before I dive in. But oh my goodness, like way back when, I'll start with the e-commerce world. I won't go before that because I have had quite a long career. And I started my e-commerce journey about 6-7 years ago, actually. And I helped build an influencer technology tech stack. So I was the, third employee. So it was the founder, me, and the head engineer. And we were like, we're going to build this from the ground up. No launch. We're like, let's do this. I quit my really good job to come over and build this pipe dream that our founder at the time had. And so we started working with hundreds of brands and helping them scale their influencer and creator and affiliate networks. And it was the most beautiful thing because we started to see the impact of community and what community actually does for brands. And it's not just about all of the ads and the money and all of the things and all of this. It's like, no, when you're actually driving real impact and have real communities, that is where longevity happens with brands. So a few years in, gosh, I don't even know how many years at this point, so I apologize, but we ended up getting acquired by Pattern, which they are a global e-commerce accelerator. So a lot of you guys, if you're familiar in the Amazon world, they are massive in the Amazon ecosystem. So I stayed there for about a year during the transition, but behind the scenes, I was actually working on my own brand. And it really, what really helped catapult me into doing this was, one, my sister was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease in 2020, which prevented her from being able to actually use beauty products because of all of the toxins that are in these products. And a lot of people are in toxic overload right now. And I was like, this is a change that I can get behind, because I was also suffering with my own hormonal challenges. And I was like, if I don't start doing some preventative measures, I could end up like my sister, who is still on this lifelong recovery. And so I started working on our non-toxic self-tanner. And I started with that because I always like to tell people I'm Danish. I'm like transparent. I'm so white.
Literally relatable. I am like Canadian, Scottish, and Irish. So it's just all in English. It's just all a fun mix.
You gotta love it too. You're I love it. And I'm also I was meant to be born this way because this is the vessel at which I'm supposed to create some of this impact. And so started working with a chemist. I kept, changing manufacturer to manufacturer because nobody understood what it meant to be non-toxic and all of that. So I changed manufacturers a million times. And finally, we were able to get the industry's first foam and lotion non-toxic hybrid self-tanner. So it was a really beautiful journey. But I will say, looking back, what gave me the confidence to just do it was I had these other founders and CEOs while building the tech company coming to me for advice. And I was spilling out all of these answers, well, this is what you need to do. And I was like, whoa, Paige, you can actually do this. You've got this. And meanwhile, all of these other founders asking were the ones that were VC backed and have been in the industry for 20, 30 years and all of that. So
I love it.
Long-winded answer here.
No, that's perfect. There's already 5 things that I want to dive into. And this is why I love the podcast. Which first thing I want to dive into, toxic overload, that. So quick background, going further back into my way before I got into e-commerce, my background was in neuroscience. And so I actually had a class where it was studying different, toxins and materials in beauty products. And I made it specifically in beauty products because I was I want to know. But you could make it in right. It was mostly looking if there's lead in old pipes and water and stuff like that. And so long-winded way of saying I have studied this very, very, very surface level. And just you'd be surprised by how much, and I think it's coming to the surface now. So I think a lot of people are more aware of just greenwashing and like actually looking at your products, and like just because it says it's good for you doesn't necessarily mean it's good for you. You have to like really check the ingredients, whether it's beauty or, you know, food and bev or anything like that. So I think that is when I also stumbled across your LinkedIn. I was like, non-toxic self tanner. I was like, oh my God, so smart. Like I was just like, wow, had one of those moments.
It's crazy because I think a lot of people also don't realize that there are toxins in beauty products because everything is legal here, right? Like you can have anything, which has put us into significant toxic overload. And that is why we have, you know, 1 in 8 women struggle with PCOS, autoimmune diseases. Oh, I could go on and on.
Yeah. And we just might if we have enough time. So
we might.
Yeah, we might. Something tells me you and I would need a little bit more time than our allotted podcast time. But for later, we'll put a pin in it. But yeah, so like, and people don't realize, you know, that your skin obviously absorbs a lot. And so it makes a lot of sense that what you're putting on it, obviously, if it has a lot of toxins in it, can be very dangerous. And so I want to talk a little bit because you also said that you had switched a lot of manufacturers, right, along the way. And I think that's something that, because this podcast is obviously for current founders, but also people who want to become founders. And so in that seat of like, okay, what would this even look like? Breaking down the actual steps and the decisions, the successes, the not so successes, all that fun stuff. And so I think manufacturers is one of those things where it's like, that is terrifying because you're trusting someone else with your product. And you also like, you have to get samples and try it out. And like, just the journey of finding manufacturers and then having to be like, oh God, these weren't the ones. Like I have to do that process all over again is a lot. So can you walk me through like, how did you handle, you know, I have this idea, I want to bring it to market, but the manufacturing side is just like painstakingly, you have to find the right partner and it can take a lot.
I think like for one, the manufacturing world is slimy. Like I just tell every founder, just beware. Manufacturing is just slimy. And you really have to ask all of the questions and find manufacturers and also keep finding them. Like manufacturers also can go under like that. Like one customer goes out of business and that's maybe funding the whole company. Like you just don't know what can happen. And so I'm always searching. Now, my biggest thing here was I gotten really good advice from someone after my first manufacturer. My first manufacturer, I didn't have visibility into the exact formula, percentages, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, that's complete, like, that's ridiculous. Like, what happens if this company goes under, which I actually did, which is crazy. And I switched right before, which blessed. But seriously, my biggest piece of advice here is own your formula. So either go directly to a chemist to start, which is what I ended up doing afterwards. I was like, no, I'm cutting this out. I need to go directly to a chemist. I need to own my formula. I need to know exactly how the process works, what it is, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the biggest questions and the biggest learnings throughout that process was you need to read the fine print, really understand what are the minimum order quantities. I know that sounds so simple, but it's like, okay, well, what are the margins as your quantities increase? And what, like, we should know what their margins are. And we should know that as we grow, they grow, you know, there's just so many things. And I also was really smart. I'm not going to say I was really smart, but I got
say it. We can say that.
I'm just lucky. I always tell people, I'm like, I actually like got the cheat code because I got to work with all these founders and hundreds of brands to like get all of their secret sauce, you know, and it's always changing and it's not always one size fits all, but it gives you really good discernment.
And you don't know what you don't know until you know it, right?
Correct. And also we all think we're invincible and we all think our brand is going to, you know, pop off right away. Right. So, I got really good advice to do a really small first order. And I think that was my saving grace because every founder, when you launch, you don't realize that you're going to get massive product feedback and you need to be able to pivot and adjust. You do not have to burn your inventory. I spent 2 years formulating this and we still had to change the formula 3 months in to launch. And so it's like the biggest thing here is I was just talking to a founder the other day and he was like, yeah, I want to launch with 20,000 units. And I was like, well, what's your go-to-market? Like, do you already have a platform? Do you already have an email list?
An audience somewhere?
He's like, no. And I'm like, he's like, that's just the recommended amount that my manufacturer said. And I was like, no. Literally, if you can, start with 2,500, if you can. Now, like, some won't do that, and you might have to do 5,000. But I'm like, do not go over this when you first start because you likely will be adjusting and you want to adjust. Like, that, like the quicker you can get feedback, the quicker you can have the best product on market so that then you can start running the ads and doing all the things to actually push it out. But we are just now at our year mark in our year mark hits May, we're just now going to be starting ads. We went all organic the first year because we were just learning. Like, why burn cash when you are learning and you are growing and, you know, doing all of that stuff?
And people too, like, I think this is one of the things that I've also learned from talking to founders through this podcast or through, you know, Malomo. And it is so important. Those like early adopters, if they're like, a lot of them might be family and friends, right? They know someone or your team personally, or like have some connection. You've met them through events or whatever. So their leniency is going to be a lot more forgiving than someone who just randomly finds you through an ad, right? So like, I also think about it that way of, if someone knows that they're an early adopter of that brand, they're going to love that they're an early adopter. They're before the trend, you know, they're like supporting, if it's important to them, they're supporting, you know, you or your team or your business. And I think there is so much value in not rushing things. And I think I also saw this on one of your posts, because that is like the advice that I hear on this podcast when we do get into manufacturing and just talking about product development a little bit, of like, if you can start small. And there are manufacturers out there, depending on your industry, right? Like there's going to be, if you're in apparel versus CPG versus beauty, you know, there's just going to be differences to all of that. But there are some manufacturers out there that will do really, really low minimum order quantities. And like, that's their thing, right? So then you have to evaluate, okay, do they meet my other criteria? But there are manufacturers out there who will do that because they really like working with small businesses who have, you know, the potential to scale and all that stuff. So I say that to agree that like small order quantities and then iterating and not investing, because also if you're bootstrapping, it's a ton of cash up front, right? I think this is where like pre-orders come into play, and looking at, okay, like test the market by putting it on the market, make the caveat that this is the first, like, you know, first or second time that we're really trying to get feedback from people. And then people are way more forgiving if you're just super upfront about the expectations they should have, and like saying, okay, we want your feedback because we just created this new thing. And I think there's a lot of value in that yes, customers want a great experience and a great product, but if you tell them we are iterating on this, please help us, they will feel way more valued than if they just get the product and they're like, what the hell? Like, this is not what I wanted. So I love that message. I love that message, Paige. Okay, so now I want to switch into, it's always fun to hear, you know, getting things up and running, but obviously this podcast mostly focused on retention. So to go with retention, we always have to talk about acquisition. So if you can walk me through, what are, you know, from day one, obviously you said organic, we already touched on that a little bit. If we could drill down there and talk about like, okay, how did you start to get, you know, your message out there, educate consumers about non-toxic self-tanner? How did you start to acquire those customers? And then we'll talk about, you know, how you think about retaining them.
That's such a good question. And I think it's
very open-ended one, right? People love it.
It's always evolving. I would say because my background is in affiliate, you know, and influencer creator economy, things like that. I started with community. And so I do talk a lot about my journey on LinkedIn as well, which I think people get really invested in, but I put a huge emphasis on customers and bringing those people on even as affiliates. And so we launched with 75 affiliates. Like when we were launched, we had 75 affiliates.
Wow.
And now we're at like 1,600.
God, in a year?
Yeah,
that's impressive. Good for you.
Which is why we've been able to go organic, because we have so many awesome people backing us. But I would say on the retention side and how we went about that was, I'm not afraid to get my hands wet. And I always tell other founders, I'm like, this is your baby. This is your brand and your mission. You need to be the one that starts the community. You're not hiring someone to build a community for you to start. Like, people are rallying behind you right now. And that's just my recommendation if you're bootstrapping. Now, total different recommendation if you go the VC route. I personally did not want to go the VC route. I wanted to bootstrap this and I wanted it to be my baby and be able to give equity to team, things like that. And so with that being said, I was the one that did the initial outreach to all of these creators. And I like told my story and like why I started this company and why I wanted them to try it, be part of it, get feedback from them. And so they almost felt like they were building the brand with me. And we still have really early customers that like I follow on Instagram and they're so supportive, and we send them, you know, we're launching a face tanning spray in May and they were able to try and sample the face tanning spray before it comes out. Like just including them in everything and actually building a real community. Because you hear a lot of people talk about building community, and I'm like, but are you actually building community? Like, do you actually care about your people? Are you actually like at the forefront of that? Are you giving them opportunities? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. Or are they sitting on a list, like not engaged? Yeah.
Yes. And so part 2 to that is, because we're putting such an emphasis on the impact, because personally, that's why I wanted to do this anyways. I could have stayed at that job, cush job, X, Y, and Z, but I'm like, no, like, this is what I want to do. I want to help educate people. I want people to live with more energy and confidence. Like, literally, I could wake up and do this every day. And so we launched the Living Elan podcast. So Elan stands for energy and confidence, which is literally the ethos behind the whole thing. And so that is part 2 to how we retain. It's not just about sales and getting product in people's hands. It's also about letting them know that we are a tool and resource. And we're not just talking about our product over there. We're talking about everything, like holistic wellness, beauty. We have fun. We do it all. We're going to be doing live podcast events. Like, it's just so different than just a typical brand where it's like, we're VC backed and you have to hit certain margins and all of that. I'm like, am I where I want to be right now? Not necessarily. At our year mark, did I think we were going to be way farther along? Yeah, I thought we were going to have like 3 products launched by now. But at the end of the day, we focus on what needed to be focused on, which is the people, like building that up so that when we do launch these other products, we actually have now people to launch them to, which, you don't have when you first start. So long-winded answer, Mariah.
I love it. Paige, this is what podcasts are for, as you know, is long-winded answers to questions. Also, the questions I ask are purposefully left open so that it's like, I can really see what, like, I'm not leading you into talking about XYZ. So that was great. And I love the statistic around having 75 affiliates before you even started and then growing to 1,600. I got that right? Okay, sweet. Always have to double check. I think that's a great message to kind of hone in on, because I would love to talk to you about like the actual incentives and what that looks like. So you mentioned, obviously, you have a baked in system for testing new products, sampling, and that works really, really well with beauty because, the formula and how you're actually, what the product feels like is so important. So what other, like, I guess, what's like a template, if you can remember, even like reaching out to those brands and saying like, okay, this is what I'm all about from your content. I think like it would really align with our brand and what I'm trying to do with this brand. Because I think that's always so helpful for founders to hear like, okay, this is actually how you reach out to someone. And then like, are you offering a discount to their community, and like all those little things that I think other founders can get hung up on of like, is this the quote unquote right way to go about like affiliates and influencers and all that stuff?
Actually, why I started, I do a quarterly mastermind for founders, and I actually don't charge all that much because I'm like, I have so much knowledge. And so if anyone's interested, I don't actually tell people this. It's literally just like my close founder friends, but we do one. The next one is in a month and a half. You can just email paige@elanpure.com and you can totally join. But I basically walk everyone through how to build out a proper affiliate program. And I say affiliate just because that's the most standard name, but it's your community, it's your creators, it's anyone who is talking about you, digital word of mouth marketing, etc. And, to start, that framework really is you're identifying the types of, I call them verticals. So the types of verticals that you want to go after. And I say, when you launch, you should start with 3 audience types, 1 product, and all platforms. Now you might hear like 1 audience, 1 platform, 1 product. I'm like, no. In this day and age, you have to be on all platforms. So if you're going to launch a product, just know that you got to be on all platforms. You got to be everywhere. But you should launch with 1 product because you got to get your hero product and you have to hone that in. But when you're on all social platforms with that 1 product, you can understand a lot. And what we did was we identified within our 3 audience types. So our first audience type, just to walk the audience through it, is the people already educated about non-toxic, the people that are already searching non-toxic products. That is like our primary audience that we just want to convert over. Our secondary audience, those are going to be the people that care about clean beauty. They like it. They're into wellness, but they actually don't understand toxins. This is the funnest group to convert because like they're like there, but they're not, because the education, no one's out here teaching this stuff, right? But like they think they're buying stuff because they're in the clean section at Sephora and they like feel good about it, but they're like, oh, wait a minute. And then the third audience is always some sort of like test audience for us. And so that might be, we might go down rabbit holes of autoimmune diseases, breast cancer survivors. We might go down the rabbit holes of logists, all of those things. And so they're kind of like the same audience, but you've got like the bullet points, right?
Yeah.
We then bring that over to, okay, who are all of the creators and people we want repping our brand and like rallying behind us? And then we come up with like the 7, and you don't have to do 7, but I like to start with 7 because then you can see what type of verticals are actually wanting to come over and support. And you're going to pick those 7 verticals and find creators that match those verticals. And we were, at the beginning, we were reaching out to hundreds of people a month. Now we do no outreach and it's all inbound through TikTok.
Isn't that so nice? Like from a marketer, like it's inbound. We love it.
We love inbound. And we also don't have time for outbound right now. And so it's
totally fair.
Yep. And we just started to hone in on what types of audiences care. And that is kind of where you start to build the foundation. And then you're just massive outreach, like from there.
Okay. I love it. So if that's like the acquisition side of affiliates, obviously you want to make sure that your affiliates are happy while they're part of your program. So I think that's a natural segue into talking about retention. And like, I want to talk about obviously customer retention, but right now let's talk about the affiliates, because that will be like the majority of what our our listeners are like, okay, I want to know how, once you get those affiliates in your program, obviously product development, sending them samples, all that fun stuff. But is there like a next layer of, okay, this is how we make sure that they're engaged? Like, what are you kind of doing there, if anything?
Yes. Oh my gosh, you have to do so much. Well, a lot of it is they get early access to everything. We use a technology stack called Pattern Creator. So it's actually the company that acquired us. So I'm still using them. And we're always adding value. So it's not about selling all the time. It's like my president of wellness, she's getting in there and she's like, here are all of these tips. Tune in here. Does anyone want to be on our podcast? Like, we are doing so much to just engage the community. We get on TikTok lives 3 times a week. So they know once a week they can see me, once a week they can see our president of wellness, and once a week they can see someone from the team. And so we're very like forward out there. So if you want to come work at Elan Pure, you got to be comfortable on camera, because we want the people to feel like, they're with us. And so we do a lot outside of just the affiliate program to engage. We launch monthly campaigns to them. They obviously get commissions. We just launched on Amazon and we just sold out, by the way, which is crazy.
Oh my God. I did see that. Oh my God. I was like, I need to bring that up. Oh my God. Perfect.
Good to run out of inventory on Amazon because you get like a little ding, dang it. But
oh my God. Is it really? Okay. See that. I didn't know that.
It is. You basically want to show Amazon that you can keep them stocked up. But the good thing is I think it's called FBM. I cannot remember for the life of me.
That's okay.
What it is. But basically now my regular fulfillment center is fulfilling orders until we get a new order into Amazon. And I'm obviously not where all my inventory is right now. And so we gotta figure that out when I fly back tomorrow. But it's very exciting. So they're always pushing us, helping us. We're giving them the ability to earn money, but we do not pay one-off influencers. We're bootstrapping. We don't have time for that.
Yeah. And this is some of the things like that I went to like a founder, shout out Mackenzie Bauer. She's the CIO and co-founder of Thread Wallets. Love their company. They do a lot of incredible stuff. And she hosted like a female founder, like Black Friday, Cyber Monday summit, basically. And this was one of the main topics of like influencers, because everyone's trying to figure out like paid influencer strategy versus affiliates and like all that stuff. And I think it is like, me personally, I'm such a strong believer of, if someone wants to work with your team and you are both like, the influencer and the brand are both at the same like stage of, excitement or like ability to grow together, and it is like mutually symbiotic. It doesn't have to be like an upfront paid opportunity to be beneficial to said affiliate or influencer. And that is where I think like a lot of brands can get that massive, like, oh God, like what should I do with influencers? I need a big, like VC backed brand to do that. And it's like, wait, no, there's a lot of other things that you can do. And I also think, which I'm curious, then we'll get into customer retention. I have seen just like on the tech side, a bunch more of platforms that are working like with super micro influencers. Like you don't have to have any following. It's just your friends. And you can like get basically, this is how Hummingbirds is the platform I'm talking about specifically. They basically, to my understanding, will give you like a gift card to go shop with that brand, try it out, and then give your honest feedback. And it's like low barrier of entry, super interesting. So I'm curious to see where it's like, I think micro nowadays means like 10K influencers, but like this is like super micro. Like I have just my family and friends on my social media.
Yeah.
And it's like I could sign up and shop with the brands I already use. And then like they can reuse your content. So it's very interesting. I've met their team and they're awesome and like know people who work with them. But they are like that's the part where I'm like, oh, this is now it's like everything's always a pendulum. It swings from like the really big influencers and now it's gonna swing downstream to like the super super micro influence, like just people, right? Like or incentivizing customers to become like influencery, like give influencer type content for your brand and all that fun stuff. So I'm also very, very curious to see where those trends go. But okay, that was a great summary. Walk me through now the customer side, the customer retention. So someone shops with you, obviously you have a little bit of hopefully baked in retention that your product is like CPG, you're consuming it, and then you'd be a customer would be purchasing it again. But walk me through like how are you thinking about customer retention, making sure that customer experience is great so they shop again with you, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, so I think every company has automations, right, set up, and this all new email setup is weird and the promotions are interesting. So I think retention is going to look a little bit different on the email and text side here soon. So we'll see what that kind of transitions into. But in terms of retention, how we kind of think about it is I look at it as, and I cannot remember for the life of me this man who said this theory, but have you ever heard of the zone of doubt?
Oh, wait. I feel like it's like ringing a really small bell in the back of my brain, but refresh me and tell our listeners in case they don't know.
This was more what I took from the tech side because, some companies are paying a significant chunk of change for having the tech stack that we did. So there's this theory called the zone of doubt where you want to catch them before they have that, oh gosh, should I have bought that? Is it going to meet my expectations? Am I going to have to return this? And, X, Y, and Z. So I took that learning from the tech industry and brought it into ecom. And we have a very similar system where we go through the whole zone of doubt, which how we think of it, it's not the exact same as what I used to do, but right when someone purchases the product, of course they get that standard thank you. We're acknowledging their purchase, but we are not the hero in it. They are the hero in it. And so we are the guide. So we're basically, our whole customer journey is walking them through as if we are the guide. So we're just continuing to give them more education on toxins. We are continuing to show them, hey, this is like, right, oh, it's almost at your door. Here's why you're going to love it. Here are all of the things, our differentiators, right? And then, hey, it's at your door. Here are all of our tips. So we don't really send blanket statement emails. It's all very purposeful. And so they don't have time to have a zone of doubt because we give them all of that stuff. So then maybe if they're thinking about it, because we are priced a little bit higher because we are organic, we source well, etc. And so I don't want them to get the zone of doubt because of the pricing. And so we're going to continue to show them, hey, the value of this product outweighs the price. In fact, like, plentiful. And so we're walking them through that. And then we are going to be releasing subscription here soon. I never recommend anyone's launching with subscription because you shouldn't. But
if it doesn't go well.
Seriously. And so what we are thinking through now that we're getting around our year mark is now we start to see that people are coming back every couple months. So we're starting to see that. So now we're like, all right, let's figure out a way to do an email that gets them a BOGO. So, hey, buy one, get one 40% off. So that new automation we're in the works of right now to say, okay, well, if they come back a second time, let's just make them buy the third, right? And that's gonna help kind of bring that along. So we're working through like random automations right now to kind of see what's fun. And we love like doing some sort of BOGO deal and some sort of bundle because it makes the value seem like it's bigger than, just that small thing. So everyone loves to give the discounts on the first one, but they don't think about, okay, retaining customers, the discounts, I like to give the bigger discounts later and the smaller discounts up front if it works within your margins, because now they love the product and now they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I got to get it again. Like, yeah, it's a little bit expensive, but I'm getting this. So and this is another tangent, but I recommend every founder always bake in pretty big discounts and commissions for your pricing so that you have the ability to push product and do that. And I think so many brands are like, well, I don't want to be a discount brand. And I'm like, well, that sucks. Because in this day and age, you kind of have to be, unless you are like fully the luxury market. And not a lot of brands can get into that category very easily.
Yeah, no, it's difficult to do that. No, I love that. And I think that's like part of, I mean, that's where my expertise comes in with Maloma, right? Because it is like that post-purchase experience with order tracking and emails and SMS of like seeing me as a consumer. If I don't get a notification from a brand I just shopped with, I'm like panicked. I'm like, where is it? Like, was
Yeah.
it a scam? Right. And that's like less and less. Like, shoppers are smarter now than when like brands were just getting on Instagram and all that stuff. But it is so important to have like that zone of doubt or, oh my God, what is the other word for it that I'm looking for? Regret of buying. Oh my God, it'll come to me. But it is like so important to be within that zone. And I think that's where brands are like, okay, table stakes is like, yeah, you need to have those transactional communications, right? They spent their money, they want to know what is up with where that money went. And then it sounds like super intentional, the next level up. So it's like basic foundational levels, like you must have something,
Yeah.
whether they're like blank white emails, they have no character to them, you haven't thought them through, like you have to trigger those. What, like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then next level up is thinking through the actual customer journey of like, okay, how can we educate our customers on like when your product arrives or this is what you can do with those, that product. And these are the reasons why you initially bought, like reinforce that. So I'm spoiled as a consumer because I work in the industry, the technology, right? Like I know what's out there. But as someone who is in the space, I very much have a lot of respect, and it makes me want to shop with those brands more who intentionally put messages behind their customer experience and make sure that they're, retaining those customers. So I think it's a great point to like intentionally think about the hero versus the guide. I loved that. And
Yep.
then also thinking through like with BOGOs and discounts of, okay, where can you still have a decent margin, but like have your customer be happy. And I
Yep.
think that's where people can really get like, and I see your background in working in the space where it's like, oh, wait, let's make
Yep.
sure that the numbers crunch so that you're not, as a founder, putting yourself in a position where it doesn't work. And then customers are also still disappointed in the end, no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It
love
is
it.
it is pretty crazy when you think about everything that goes into it, but then once you do it once, you're like, I can repeat this. This is really easy. Like, let's go. So I tell founders all the time, I'm like, anyone can do this. Seriously, anyone can. You just have to be willing to get your hands dirty and be in it. Like commit.
Yeah.
Full-
And like you can't be scared, like if like founder facing content, like you can't be scared of like being on camera, like you said, like that is very much what nowadays most shoppers like that, like seeing the behind the scenes and all that fun stuff. So I completely agree. And I love that we both have backgrounds in tech and like seeing the influence of, okay, you learn so much, yes, but also like a lot of people don't know what they're doing. And a lot of founders admit that too, where they're like, I don't know, we're making it up as we go, right? Like that is literally baked into entrepreneurship. Is like you have the spirit to go do something and figure it out and solve it. And so you got to just kind of like stumble along your way and see what you find out along the way, right? So Paige, this has been so fun. Thank you so much for joining the show. We have so many pins to like address later on, and I can't wait to support you and your brand and see, how Elan Pure continues to grow, and look out for all those fun lot of product launches.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was a blast. And thank you. I know I'm a yapper, so I apologize, but
We love yapping.
I know, right? I'm like, also when I find another woman that like gets it, I'm like, I love it. Let's dive in.
Yeah, the fact that we can get to like call this work and professional is incredible. So I will always take it.
I will do it. Well, thank you so much again. And hopefully we'll be chatting soon.
Yes, most definitely. Thanks again, Paige.